So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for the future of coaching that we are going to discuss. And we are going to unlock ICF 2025 core competencies. Today, we have three international speakers, mentors, coaches with us. The first is Virginia Velez. She is an ICF Master Certified Coach, Academic Director of the American Coaching School Radiance. She's a trainer, mentor, and supervisor of leaders and professional coaches. She has graduate degree in law and brings extensive coaching experience from her work with Radiance Partners and co-leads the ICF Spain International Working Group. Welcome, Virginia. Then we have Gorka. He is an ICF MCC coach. He's the director of CEGOS, Executive Coaching School, and has a PhD in psychology. He is a university professor. He is the author of Synergy Effect, and he specializes in individual and group coaching processes and co-leads the ICF Spain International Working Group. So welcome, Gorka. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, we have our very own Monica Barnes. She's an ICF PCC coach, executive coach for women leaders, and a registered ICF mentor coach. And also, she is a regular support with CJ community. She is a mentor coach with CJ. She trains coaches for ICF certification and is a level 1 and 2 coach educator at CGOS coaching school and a member of Forefront Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches. She also co-leads the ICF Spain International Working Group. So we have some like speakers with you who are the best people who could explain to you the changes that have gone that ICF has gone through and the core competency. So now I give the control to Monica and she can take it from here.
Thank you for this beautiful presentation. We really appreciate being here. It's a true privilege for me to offer this webinar alongside my colleagues. As you said, Virginia González Vélez, that she's an MCC, and Gorka Bartolomé Anguita, that he's also an MCC, and have this webinar within my beloved coaching journey community, from which, as you said, I am a member and mentor coach. All three of us, as you also said, we are members of ICF Spain. I'm part of the International Working Group, which serves as a bridge between ICF Global and the Spanish chapter. And we are very, very excited to be here with you all today. Before starting, the three of us, we want to give a heartfelt thank you to Sunil, to Sandeep, to Jess, and to yourself, Prathistha, for graciously opening the doors of the community to the three of us and embracing our proposal with such generosity. And I just want to share here with you that we originally delivered this ICF or Competencies webinar in Spanish for ICF Spain. And our commitment here is to the coaching profession so that we can drive to continue sharing it with you here today. And in this webinar today, we will explain the following, maybe mainly three topics to have it short: the key updates and the competencies that ICF have published on September the 8th. So if you want to know that by the end of the webinar, you are at the right place. And also the global ICF key message on subcompetency 711 that Gorka is going to enlighten us about this topic, and the key point, right? The importance that these changes have for you or have for us all. And I give 1 second, but it's now to Gorka.
Estás on mute.
You're mute.
Yes, thank you so much. So, as I was saying, thank you so much. We are so happy and so thrilled to be here with all of you, and thank you so much for this warm welcoming. Well, we want to share with you a clear session aligned with the guidelines that, in this case, ICF Global shared with us in different international meetings that took place from September to the last November. So since September 8th, when the 25th 2025 core competencies were shared globally with all ICF coaches, we have had the privilege of engaging with these key people in several meaningful encounters. So during this last quarter, we held 3 sessions, one in September, one in October, and one in November. And in these meetings, we have received the latest updates on Competency 7.11, the one which we'll comment later on. And so we will explore all these different changes. So here in the slide, you can see the different key ICF representative and recent connections. And this is an important information because in any case, you have any questions or any doubts that you want to solve, so they are the people you should be addressing to.
Virginia, would you like to continue?
Thank you, everybody, to take us here. And this webinar is a space to discover in community what has changed in these new core competencies and how to apply it in your professional practice as a coach, mentor coach, supervisor, training, or preparation in your ICF exams. The resources that we have are, as a coaches, is the publication of competencies, as they said, my colleagues, the 8th of September, a comparison table of the changes, the 2019 and the competencies 2025, and the white paper with the evolution of these top competencies 711. We will share these 3 documents in this webinar. And after this webinar, you will receive the recording in your email, or if you allow us, we're going to upload it to YouTube.
Yes, exactly. So we have already shared here the competencies in the chat, and I will also share the table, the comparative table. So here we have prepared 3 slides for you. And these next 3 slides, we will look at when and how should the competencies be implemented in your professional practice, regardless if you're a coach, a mentor coach, supervisor, trainer. So, and we will also share information about other additional competencies and products that ICF Global have recently introduced to the public. As you know, in San Diego this October, ICF created the event of Converge, and 3 products were shared and released there. And we will also discuss them. So here in relation to coaching, there is a new resource, as I was sharing, that was presented in ICF Converge San Diego, that is the ICF Coach Book. Some of you might know about it. It's a downloadable digital publication, and from now on is the official body of coaching skills and knowledge of ICF. And this ICF comprehensive guide explores 3 parts of the coaching profession. Part 1 is the coaching market. Part 2 is detailed competencies. And part 3 is coaching career paths, accreditation, business creation, and the future of coaching and AI. This resource is not free. If you want to have it, if you want to have this downloadable digital publication, the price is $145. So it's not for free. And this is a resource that we have. Then we also have the competencies and the comparison table, as Virginia said. And also we have 8 videos about the new competencies. So you can see different advisors that ICF had during these 14 months of competencies revision. And some of these advisors are the ones that are the speakers of these 8 videos. So they really know what they are talking about. And you will see that they are very precise in these videos about how the competencies were, the changes that the competencies have suffered, how a coach can master the competency, and the main key points of every single competency. So this is a very good resource to have in mind. Then we also have the minimum skills requirements that they were changed. And the ones that were presented in October, they will be important that they are started being used in January, as we say here, January 2026. And then we have the supervision. There are some competencies that you might not be aware. Core competencies is for supervisors. They are different from core competencies for coaches, right? And these core competencies for supervisors are valid since September 2024. And this model establishes the key standards and skills that ICF professional supervisors should have into account. So let's see if we go to the next slide. Exactly, we have mentoring. Then you also have the minimum skills requirements for mentors. Then we have the core competencies for mentor coaches. Again, this model defines the behaviors and standards that should be demonstrated for those who are mentor coaches. And then we have also trainings, ICF trainings. This is an update grade for the ACC and the NCC bars. And these trainings are available as part of our improvement as mentor coaches who are from working in level 1 or in a level 3. Level 1, it would be ACC bars training, and level 3, MCC bars training. These trainings are not compulsory, and at the same time, ICF, let's say, shares the importance also of doing these trainings in order to be updated. And as we include here, there are some trainings that have already been included. This is the ACC bars, and the MCC bars training is still waiting to see when will it be released. And then if you have a school, it's very important also to have this in mind. At the latest of your next renewal, your ICF coaching programs should be updated according to the new competencies and according to the Code of Ethics 2025. Okay? And there are also some information that does not change, not in coaching, not in supervision, not in mentor coaching, and not in schools. What does not change are the PCC markers. Okay, this is important to have it in mind. The ACC minimum required skills and the MCC minimum skills required are going to have changed, and these new ones should be implemented in January 2026. And then again, the PCC markers are not going to change, and they are not changed. Therefore, for level 2 exams, the PCC markers stay the same. Okay, and what else we have here? Yes, then we have exam preparation. In the exam preparation, ICF presented 2 new products in ICF Converge. There is an ACC exam preparation, and there is a PCC and MCC exam preparation. Okay, both of them are not free, and the price is $595 to have access for a year subscription to a link. And there you have a personalized study plan, reading materials, quizzes, flashcards, practice tests, and much more. So this is important to understand that because these materials exist and this is the price. Okay. And then also here we have a pilot exam that is starting today, December the 2nd. And we will go in more detail about this pilot exam. So as you might remember, the new ICF ACC exam changed in 2024. And this exam stays the same. And what we are discussing here about the pilot exam is the pilot exam of the PCC. Okay, so this is about a change that has started today in the ICF world in relation to the PCC MCC exam. It's more known as ICF credentialing exam. How is working the structure in this pilot exam? The structure now is 82 questions. 42 of these questions are situational judgment items, what is called as scenario-based. So it's here we have an example, so you know, and it's the best and worst response. This is the structure that the exam has had until now. So in the pilot exam, you will have 42 questions like these ones, plus 40 questions of multiple choice knowledge terms. This means that these questions are like the structure of the ACC exam. Okay, so 42 best and worst questions and 40 questions of multiple choice where there is a short question and there is only one answer that's correct. If you want to volunteer for this exam, you can click here when you receive the PDF of these slides. These hyperlinks work, and then you can propose as a volunteer. ICF wants to have 300 volunteers. And if you volunteer, you will have the option of repeating the exam free of charge if you don't pass it. I'm sure you will, but should you not, just that you have that in mind. And you will have another option to pass the exam for free. And you will also be given 3 free credits as you were a volunteer. Be aware that this ICF credential exam pilot, the results will be available after the conclusion of the pilot program. What does this mean? You might take the exam today, because this is the first day that the pilot exam is running, and you will not have the results until April 2026. So if you're not in a rush, this might be a good option. If you're in a rush, this option is not for you, okay? And candidates might wait 14 days following the first attempt to retake the exam. And these are the basics. And also the pilot exam is only available in English. And as I said, it starts today and it should end in February, more or less. Okay, this is the idea. So then ICF can absorb all the data, analyze it, and then give the results in April. Okay, now I will share here with you. We have prepared these 3 following slides with all the hyperlinks of the information we have shared with you until now, the videos, the competencies, the ICF coach book, also the mentor coaching and the supervisor competencies. Also, if you're a trainer, there are special competencies for you to be aware of. Also, these products of how to prepare the exam and the minimum skills required, the bars. So everything you have it here. And when you have the PDF, then you will be able to download every single document.
Thank you so much, Monica. And now let's try to understand what was done and why in this update of the competencies in this 2025. And first, we will understand what is the context, and then we will go into the specifics of each competency. As we all know, ICF is always looking for world-class coaching. So the reason why they decided to conduct this global study is because ICF always wants to be in touch with reality and with actually the most important topics that we should take into account in our coaching practice. So the aim of this global study was to update the core competencies, okay, so ensuring that they reflect, as I said, this reality. including, as we know also in the latest times, the impact of technology and also new trends. So what was the process for this global study? So the whole process took place during 14 months, okay, and it was done through a mixed research approach known as a job description. And this approach is used for ICF every 5 to 7 years. It's important to understand that it was a global, diverse, and inclusive study. This is what ICF wanted. Okay, so more than 3,000 coaches took part from around the world, and coaches from ICF and beyond. Okay, so this is also very interesting. So this survey, this study, did not only include ICF coaches, but coaches from other denomination. This research, the different steps that they took was about just reviewing some specialized literature, doing some focus groups, this global survey, and also 2 workshops with coaching experts. One was in Frankfurt in October 2024, and with 10 coaches in this workshop. Another workshop in Paris in April 2025 with 12 coaches. The goal of these 2 workshops was to somehow review all the material and then discuss and decide what changes need to be made. And also they wanted to recommend in order to update all these competencies and bring them up to the same standards of work that is happening in the workplaces today. So very important things also to note here, and is that this study was designed to be inclusive and representative. So the participants came from different countries and regions. Also, there was a wide range of ages and genders, and also diverse coaching backgrounds and models. Okay. It's important that it was not a study focused on an internal group of ICF coaches. This was not the goal. So ICF wanted to open and also try to understand what was the temperature of the coaching profession and try to integrate the different points of view. So now, if we want to have a summary of the different changes that we have in this study, we can go to the next slide. So good news is that there are no new competencies. That means that we stay with the same basic competencies that we had in 2019. That was already a big change, but we stay with these 8 competencies. But there are a few changes, and these changes happen in some of the sub-competencies that we have. So there is a review of 12 of the existing sub-competencies, okay, not as the 11 stated before. There are 5 new sub-competencies, which include 209, 210, 312, 53, and 807 that we will review later on. There is an expanded definition of one of the competencies, in this case, competency number 2, and there is a big emphasis on technology, cultural awareness, and emotional management. Okay, and there's also a new glossary of terms. So this is an overview of the different changes that we can encounter in this update. So now, good news is that in competencies 1 and 4, there are no new changes. So they stay the same. The only thing that you need to take into account is that, yes, there is also an update of the code of ethics. So we encourage you to review this code of ethics and take a good look, because there are also some changes, some updates also related to these different topics that we were talking about before. Now, if we go to competency number 2, some changes happen here. Okay, this competency that you know that is called embody a coaching mindset. So there is a new vision. Here, the ICF wants to somehow give a much more mature, conscious, and collaborative practice of coaching. In the previous definition, in the previous, ideas of this competency, we found some interesting approaches, but they were not clear enough. They were not consistent enough. So now in this competency, it's not longer just about having a positive attitude or just working on some aspect, but it's about experiencing coaching, or I would say more living coaching. Okay, not only as a profession, but also almost like a continuous process of evolution, like a lifestyle. So, what are the key elements that we can now see in this competency? So, the first one is active participation in continuous learning and development. Okay. Then also constant collaboration with supervisors and mentors. Also, work on this open, curious, and customer-centric attitude. And then having supervision and mentoring, not as just something that is optional or that was mandatory in order to just get the credential, but they are seen as an essential part of the coaching profession, okay? Regardless the level of experience. That means that being an MCC doesn't mean that you're free from any mentoring or any supervision. So what are the modifications that we find here? So in the subcompetency 202, we find that idea of technology and continuous learning. So in this case, what we see in 2.2 is that we need to keep going on the learning and development, but including this idea of technology in our learning. Then in 204, so there is also included this idea of biases. Okay, so in 2.4, it was about being aware of the influence of the self, but now also the biases is included. We have to review, we have to work on our biases. Now, also in 206, we go from to regulate to manage emotions, which is going beyond. It's not only that you need to regulate, you need to learn how to transform these emotions so they do not affect in your regular coaching practice in the sessions. Then 207, it's about just maintaining. Okay, it's not only about preparing for the sessions, but it's also how to maintain this holistic approach before, during, and after each and every session. And now, what are the new subcompetencies that we have? So we have subcompetency 209, which in this case, it's a competency which is about nurturing and open and curiosity in oneself, and also in the client and in the process of coaching. And also 210, which is about being aware of the influence of our thoughts and behaviors in each of our clients and the others. And especially the big thing is in the definition. Before, we had the idea of developing and maintaining this open, curious, and flexible mind centered in the client. And now it's added the participation in a process of continuous learning and development personally and professionally as a coach. And we have to also collaborate with supervisors and mentors when it's necessary. So now we have a deeper work and deeper understanding of this competency.
Thank you. So now we go to competency 3, and there are 4 key updates that we all need to know. So let's look at the 4 new updates that have been introduced here. First is the coaching philosophy. This is a subcompetency 301. Before the general explanation of what coaching is and what coaching is not was enough, and now is not. Now ICF coaches are expected to not only explain what coaching is and what coaching is not, but also share our coaching philosophy, our coaching style. And this involves sharing with the client in the session 0, in our chemistry session, what our coaching style is. And the fundamental principles that guide our practice, that these are our competencies, need to also be very aware for our client from this first moment, before starting the coaching process. In this way, our client knows exactly what to expect, and it serves as a support. Support what for? Support, for instance, to clarify the role of the coach, that we are not therapists, mentors, consultants, or advisors. And this clarity builds trust and alignment, allowing coach and client to move forward together, right? With a shared understanding from before session one, before the exploratory session, this understanding and this clarity. This is the first update. The second update, this competency 302, and the philosophy here is commitment to goals. This second update focuses on the client's engagement. Before, the emphasis was placed on generating ideas and designing actions, and now the concept of commitment is added, not just responsibility, right? So what are you really committing to? This is the idea that ICF is asking ICF clients with ICF coaching. So it is not just about creating options, but about accompanying the client to take the responsibility and the commitment to connect to concrete actions. And this provides a greater responsibility on the part of the client, and also following up within the coaching process. Responsibility, commitment, and accountability as well. So it is about the active involvement of the client and also the stakeholders with their goals. So then we reinforce here the ethical and the emotional dimension of the process. Then we have the third update, subcompetency 311, and it's about respectful closing. And this third update reinforces the importance of closing the coaching relationship in a respectful manner. Respect and sensitivity are really emphasized when closing the relationship. What does this mean? This means that we, as coaches, it's important that we have in mind and that we make sure that the accompaniment and this relationship ends well. Well with reflection, well with mutual respect, and well with clarity, transparency. And it seeks to reaffirm the idea that a good closing is as important as a good start. And then we have the fourth change, that this is a new subcompetency. This is new, so 312, and is in relation to the ongoing review of the coaching process. So it's focused on reviewing the agreements. So now coaching is understood as an ongoing process, not isolated sessions by sessions. We don't sell separated coaching sessions. We offer to our clients coaching processes. And that's why this is a new competency. And here the coach is expected to be able to review and adjust the agreements over time, depending on the client's evolution. And it has an impact, because it promotes the flexibility, it promotes the constant alignment, it promotes a greater effectiveness in accompaniment, because before the coaching agreement was seen as a one-time event, right, at the beginning of the process. And now we are invited as coaches to consider it is a living document, and it's something that is reviewed and reaffirmed throughout all the coaching process. So the agreement becomes a common thread that connects all the sessions, the client with the coach, and helps us both maintain focus, alignment, and continuity from the beginning to the end of the coaching relationship. So to sum up, these updates are the coach's philosophy or coaching style, the commitment to goals, respectful closing, and revision of agreements. And this helps us work together to make the coaching process clearer, more collaborative, and more intentional as well.
And now we go to the competency 5. Here the focus is in how we show up as a coaches. An attitude of curiosity and flexible response strength our active presence. It's not a static state, it's something alive that moves with client and with the present moment. There is now a new one subcompetency here is the 503, awareness in the present moment. This subcompetency invites us to be fully aware of what is happening right now, both in us as a coaches and as a client. And this is a shift. In practice, this means being fully present, paying attention to the words, emotions, energy, and silence in the session. We noticed what is emerging in real time instead of staying in the past or jumping quickly to the future. We are there, we are with our client. This matters because when we are present in this moment, we create a deeper, more sensitive, and more flexible connection. The client can feel that we are really there with them, here and now. This often opens the door to more awareness and more meaningful shifts. This develops in as a coaches a clear and grounded presence. It helps us respond quickly and appropriately to what is happening, and is increase our sensitive to clients' relationships. Is, in short, the competence 5 remind us that our presence is being awake, curious, and responsive in the present moment together with our clients. And this 6th competency, there are no big changes, but the main idea is the same as the coaches. We listen not only to what the client says, but also what is not said. We notice patterns and keep the client whole life and situation in mind. There are no new competences here, but there are some essential small shifts in languages. In language is in subcompetency 602 and 605. Real-time communication wording changed to communicated to is communicating. This reminds us that to stay with what the client is expressing right now in this moment, we listen and reflect on what is alive in the conversation as it happened. These strengths are mindfulness and clarity in the current dialogue with our client. And in the 605, emotional and contextual integration, here the language changes from what is being communicated to what the client is communicating. Again, the focus is in the present moment. We listen to the client words, tone, and emotions, and we notice the patterns that appears over the time in the process. This helps us build a deep and continuous understanding of our clients, not only a single moment, but across the entire coaching relationship.
Thank you, Virginia. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Virginia. Sorry for the slides that were changing here. Thank you. So Virginia has done competency 5 and competency 6, and now we are going to discuss competency 8 here. And it focuses mainly on continuum progress. Actually, it seems that we have a skip or forgotten competency 7, and it's not. Gorka is going to discuss it later, and that's why we just jump from competency 6 to competency 8. This is the last competency, and although there are no major changes here, there are 2 important modifications that are worth highlighting. Before, this competency was mainly focused on what happened within each coaching session. So the particular work and the progress of the moment. And now the focus is expanding. So we want to look beyond the one-to-one session and pay attention to the sustainability of the client's learning and progress throughout the entire process. So we have this new subcompetency, 807, and this is a continuous integration of learning. And this is one of the most relevant additions in this 2025 core competencies update. The aim is that the coach collaborates with the client to integrate what they have learned and maintain their progress throughout the accompaniment, not just within the sessions. Moreover, the concept of closure has also been reformulated, and it's now about co-creating a closure that honors the client's evolution and autonomy, as we just discussed before, in order to ensure that the learning is sustained and beyond the formal coaching process. So this subcompetency reinforces the idea of shared responsibility and long-term growth. And then there is the second modification, just two in this competency 8, that is 808, and it's the recognition of the progress. Before, the word used here was celebrate the client's progress and successes, and now the term is acknowledges. So why this change? Why the change from celebrating to acknowledging? What for? So to have really a broader and more continuous look, and thanks to the verb acknowledge, and it's not just about celebrating specific moments, but also validating the entire customer, the entire client, the transformation process from a small advances to large milestones. So this verb also is more inclusive and culturally respectful, which is important in a global coaching context, as we all know. So it's not a personal acknowledgement of me as a coach towards my client, right? This could be a question here, but rather is a broad is the coaching process, and is the difference between what happened at a certain session and what may be happening and being expressed by the client in the present session. So it's not me as a coach who acknowledges, but I am rather the catalyst who facilitates the recognition of my client's progress through a question, or maybe pointing out through a question the difference between something that the client said in previous sessions, and that is of and as a contrast of what the client is saying now. In short, these modifications seem small, yes, and at the same time reinforce two messages. First, the client's growth, so it's not limited to one session or the end of the progress, but is cultivated step by step, session after session. And two, the coach objective is to accompany the client development in a continuous, conscious, and collaborative way, promoting their autonomy and sustainability over time. And one more thing that Gorka said, as you already know, or I think it was Virginia in the resources, as you already know, a glossary has been incorporated in these core competencies, a tool that you can use, and it can be very, very useful. So it defines terms such as agreement, bias, progress, powerful questions, so that we all coaches worldwide, ICF coaches around the world, have clarity about their meaning within the context of the ICF. And now, Gorka's time for competency development. All yours.
Thank you so much, Monica. And now let's talk about the holy grail of the updates. And in this case is the slight change that has been in competency 7, but actually that it's a small change that can lead to big consequences. And in this case, the update here is that it has been added the word knowledge into the possibilities of the coach sharing. So now here the competency, it's coach shares observations, knowledge, and feelings without attachment that can have the potential to create new insights. This is another new word for the client. Actually, this update, this change here has sparked a major debate in the coaching community, and especially in ICF. And it's easy to understand why, because, well, we used to have difficulties to, differentiate coaching from other disciplines like mentoring, like therapy, like consultancy. And now, if we add this idea of knowledge, it can seem that it's even more difficult, because in the moment we are allowing ourselves to share knowledge with the clients, so then it's going to be much more difficult to make the difference. When Pete Etchels, which is the director of strategic initiatives of ICF Credentials and Standards, was asked about, okay, this change and what were the implications. So he is aware that, okay, there are many strong opinions about the role of knowledge in coaching, and also coming from diverse experiences and perspective. So the thing is that they are aware that it may seem kind of counterintuitive at first, and also it's understandable that it generates these intense reactions, right? So we need to remind ourselves the context of these changes. We already explained in the beginning how the survey, how the research was done. So it was an open research, an open survey, not only for ICF coaches. And of course, here our position is not to tell you what is right and what is wrong, and if we agree or we don't agree with this idea of knowledge, but we would like also to offer you some knowledge. Okay, this is not coaching, this is a webinar, so we can offer knowledge. So we can offer some knowledge so you have a better understanding of what's happening when we share knowledge and we don't share knowledge with the client in the coaching session. There was a question in the chat about Leonardo Javier. So I know Leonardo, we're colleagues of research. So in the end, from different sources and research, we go to the same answer in the end. So I would like to share with you just small details about my research, the one that led me to my PhD. So that research was actually a research that I ran in order to be able to understand if coaching done through a kind of strategic conditions, especially in a non-directive way, which means that non-transferent knowledge, if there was any difference, from the transference or sharing knowledge with the client. So this study was developed with 20 individuals. Okay, so we had 20 clients. It was an electroencephalography research. Okay, so we were able to register the electrical activity of the client's brain. And we had 3 different setups with every different client. There was a setup in which the client was asked to ruminate, so to try to solve a problem by themselves without any help. Another one in which the client was somehow helped with some transference, with some knowledge, and in the end, it was a non-directive approach, which means that no knowledge was shared at all with the client. No knowledge, no direction, no sharing, not even of impressions, just using and respecting the client's knowledge. So just that you can see the results. I mean, we can share, if you want, then an article in Frontiers in Neuroscience, and I can share also the dissertation. But the main results that we get is that if you can see, we have 2 different figures here. In the left figure, we have the number of insights that each client gets when they are in the 3 different conditions. The dark gray is rumination, the clear one it's directive, and the middle gray is non-directive. So we can see that there is a bigger amount of insights in the non-directive, and also we can see that directive one, when we are sharing knowledge with the client, is the one that gets less insights. Then if we go to another part of the research that was about self-perception of the clients, we can see also that the clients, they rated themselves in a much higher self-perception of creativity when they were just in a non-directive framework than when they work in a directive or rumination framework. And the most important data that we got from the research, and you can see here this heat map on the left side. The upper heat map is for rumination, the middle heat map is for directive coaching, and the bottom is from non-directive coaching. So what we can see here is that actually in the non-directive coaching, we can see a huge difference in the temporal parietal regions of the brain, especially the right ones. That means that here the alpha, theta, and gamma frequencies were very active at this point. And actually, that means if we compare it with other research that was run before about insights and about creativity, that only when we are in this non-directive framework, so when we're using the competencies and when we're not sharing at all any knowledge, any perspective, any guidance to the client, is when real creativity is happening in the brain. It's only when these insights that the client is having are real insights, is what we call an intrinsic insight, and it's when real creativity happens. Is it possible to generate an insight sharing knowledge? Yes, but this is what we call an extrinsic insight. And the characteristic of the extrinsic insight is that the person may have the feeling that, oh yeah, they understood something or they had an idea, but actually the brain is not showing this activation of the theta, alpha, and also the gamma frequencies in these right parietal temporal regions of the brain, which means that then real creativity is not happening. So here, the thing is that, okay, it's up to us and to decide what we want to do with this competency. It's also important to understand that when we talk about markers, and also you may be asking, well, what happens if I don't do that, if I don't share knowledge in my assessment? Is this going to just bring my qualification down? Not at all. It's just one marker, and it's not going to impact at all, the whole assessment of your session. So it's important also that we ask ourselves this question. So what is that I want from my client in coaching? Only results, or I want results, but I also want to develop my client to a higher and different level of creativity and also autonomy.
Thank you very much, Gorka. Wonderful. And in resume, what does these changes mean for our practice? Create sophistication and higher standards, because now we have the supervision, the mentoring. They are no longer optionals. They are now central to the definition of the coaching mindset. Each coach is expected to articulate their personal coaching philosophy beyond planning what coaching is in general terms. And the integration of learning is no longer limited closer for the process. It must be present through the entire engagement. The second one is coach self-management as an essential element. Coach well-being is redefined to include physical, emotional, and mental well-being before, during, and after each session. The explicit inclusion of awareness of our bias in the shows that the profession recognizes the impact that our unconscious patterns in the coaching space. The new subcompetency over the impact of our thoughts and behaviors demand a deeper level of self-management. It is not enough to be aware. We must understand how our influence in our customers' system. More dynamic and adaptable coaching relationship, the subcompetency that requires reversing coaching agreement when necessary, recognize a practical truth, client evolve, and so their needs. What a client is looking for at the beginning of the process can change significantly over time. The coach must be prepared to adapt the approach and maintain the relevance of accompaniment. And coaching as a process of sustained transformation. So it is no longer just about raising awareness. The coach is expected to accompany the client in integrating learning into their daily lives, resulting in less significant changes. And that is yours.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. And this arises some questions. We have prepared these self-assessment questions to help you implement these changes without feeling overwhelmed. So many changes at once, right? So first of all, we invite you to stop and to answer these 4 self-assessment questions because we feel they will help you identify your starting point and define also your next steps. We feel that answering these questions honestly will give you clarity on where to focus your development based on where you are in your coaching journey. So the first question is, when was the last time you worked with a mentor, a supervisor, or a coach? If it has been more than a year, or you have never done so outside of your initial training, maybe this might be, or you might consider this is your first priority. In question 2, can you articulate your coaching philosophy, so your coaching style, in 2-3 clear sentences? This is not about defining coaching in general, as we shared, but it's a plus. It's about expressing how you specifically approach it. Then question 3, what biases do you bring to your coaching relationships? We all have biases. So the key is to be first aware of them and then manage their impact on your clients. And maybe supervision might be for you if you feel that biases come often in your sessions. And question 4, how often do you review and adjust your coaching agreements with long-term clients? I have seen that this is a question in the chat that is connected with the 311. You were sharing how often can we, or if we can give you any guidelines about how often. So if you set them at the beginning, at the session 1 or at the exploratory session, and you never revisit them again, you might be missing opportunities for improvement. So this could be a point to have in mind when you are in chemistry session, and might be something that you would like to co-create together with your client. How often would you feel comfortable reviewing our agreement, right? This could be a good start. And then also checking during time, if for instance, if the client has bought a pack, usually companies, right, might buy you a pack of 6-7 sessions. You might agree with the client as part of your alliance to review your agreement, and you might ask him or her when. So this could be some guidelines that you might try to consider.
So after asking yourself this question, now here are some steps to integrate these changes. So we divided the like 3 kind of milestones in your coaching career. It could be a starting point that we could align with before the ACC or even at the ACC credentialing. Mid-career, that could be a PCC, an advanced PCC, and an established coach, which is like experienced or very experienced PCC or already an MCC and on. So in the starting point of your career, you should build your foundations. It's the moment to begin to set the foundations for good and really strong coaching. That means that you need to develop a coaching philosophy. And you were asking for some examples. Coaching philosophy, for instance, from my point of view, when I try to explain my coaching, I always say that I'm a non-directive coaching, non-transferent coaching, which really believes that the client is got everything they need in order to find their own solutions. So they won't need my knowledge, they will discover all they have. So for instance, this is an idea of philosophy, and this is what you need to build. So It's important that in the beginning you write your script. You sit down and you write down how you want to explain coaching to your clients, your style, your philosophy, what coaching is, just to develop your pitch. Also, it's important that from the beginning, and not only for credentialing purposes, that you engage into mentoring and supervision. It's essential because this is what's going to help you to polish your coaching, to really understand the competencies and how to deploy them into the coaching sessions. And also to work on your biases. This is one of the most difficult things, and this is one of the main obstacles for coaches. It's not about developing competencies, but it's about emptying our mind, trying to just erase all these knowledge ideas that may interfere in our coaching sessions. When we are at the mid-career, so this is the midpoint of our coaching career, so it's about redefining and reviewing and revisiting our coaching philosophy. Coaching philosophy, that your approach to coaching will change with practice and with experience. So it's important that, again, you sit down and try to understand and reflect on how is different coaching now from when you started. Again, keep mentorizing, keep taking supervision sessions. It's essential. And also review coaching agreements frequently. Okay. This is a very important stage because you have strong pillars, but now is where the building needs to build beautiful and strong and also important for people that surround you. And when we get to the last, or an established coaching practice, which means that we have a lot of experience, a lot of hours. So here is that it's the same. Don't think that you reach perfection. Don't think that you're ready and there is nothing else to learn or to improve. On the contrary, when you get to that point, the more you learn, the more you understand, and the less you know. So you need to keep, again, mentorizing, you need to keep supervising, and the more you grow in experience, the humbler you need to be. So being humble, like it's very, very, very important and essential. And the most important part of this stage is just being a model, and also to give back everything you have learned, share. I mean, you got there because you also got knowledge and support from other people. So now it's time to give it back, to share, and to help other coaches to grow.
And a gentle reminder, just to conclude, updating of key competencies, the impact on accreditation and training. The current credential holders are not required to change their reaccreditation practice from the current requirements, and the continuing education. The CEs, schools providers are required to align their programs with update competencies during the next reaccreditation renewal. The PCC ICF credential pilots exams starting today in the 2nd of December. And the update competencies and the 2025, well, the PCC and NCC, they will be starting next year in late 2026, and the ACC is not changing. Somebody asked in the chat about that.
Exactly. And before giving the word to Prathistha, we wanted to ask you if you would like to share it in the chat or in any way. What is your key takeaway from this webinar, if any? We hope so. And also, what is the first action that you will take to grow your skills? As someone was asking in the chat, what are some examples of these competencies, or how to master these competencies? You can go to the videos we shared at the beginning, and you will also see some examples that the advisors, the ICF advisors that revise these competencies give us there. So for your knowledge, and also depending, as you know, on your credential, ACC, PCC, or MCC. And before giving the floor to Pratisha. I want to apologize because I was stuck in competency 5, and now I'm seeing all your messages sharing me to go to competency 6 into slides. So sorry about that. Thank you. Pratisha, yours.
Thank you so much, Monica, Virginia, and Gorka. I think it was a very informative session, and I was particularly intrigued by uh, the competency number 7, where they finally said that share the knowledge. So now I think there will be again dilemma how much to share and how much to hold on, for especially for the coaches who are just joining the journey. I had a question particularly, like you mentioned that there is a volunteer exam, but in the presentation it is mentioned in November. So do we still have the option for that exam?
Exactly. We kept this November date because at the beginning this was the 27th of November. It was the objective of ICF to be inside or to start this pilot exam. And just some days ago, they changed it to the 2nd of December, so today. So they couldn't actually meet the deadline, right? So this was the case before jumping in the session. So it's possible that they have updated it today. And the last news until we started the session is that the pilot exam starts in December the 2nd, so today. So it's question to go there and see if you can register. It's only accepted, so on the ICF only accepts coaches who are willing to take the exam in English, and it's 300 candidates. So when they reach this 300 candidates top, they stop, right? So it's just for you to try, and that's why in the slide I have directed you when we were discussing about the two different sort of questions of this pilot exam. We include you a hyperlink there, so you can click and go directly to the pilot exam to see all the details and then to enroll if this is what you want.
Okay,
Can I ask a question, please?
yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for this wonderful and insightful hour of discussion. That was really helpful. And I have a quick question about this volunteer exam. Do I understand correctly that this volunteer exam, this pilot or whatever you call it, is only available to those holders of level 2 certificate who are eligible for PCC exams, like 500 hours, client log, mentoring, 3 mentoring sessions, and whatever, or it is an experiment for people with just the level 2 certificates without, let's say, I have 300 or 350 hours. I have passed my level 2 exam, but I don't have 500 hours. Am I eligible for pilot, volunteer, whatever you call it? Sorry, thank you.
It's a really good question, Dimitri. And the thing is, when you present your application, then it gives you the possibility to do the traditional exam, the normal exam, or the pilot exam. So you really need to meet all the requirements. This part has not changed. And this is a really good question. So it's clear. Thank you for asking.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
for
that's
asking.
what I thought, just not to create
Thank you for
confusion.
asking.
Maybe some other people may
Absolutely.
think that, okay, this is a
Absolutely.
fine opportunity. I will grab that and I'll go for it.
Yeah, yeah. And now that we are talking about that, also I wanted to point out, as some of you might already have noticed, that this new pilot exam, it has a similar structure to the ACTC exam. If you have taken the ACTC exam, you will see that it's a hybrid exam, hybrid in the way of multiple choice questions and situational based questions. What for? Well, ICF has received a lot of comments, let's say, in a neutral way, about the ICF credentialing exam. And as you know, and it's clear in the ICF website, the first year that this exam ran, only 73% of all coaches passed this exam the first time they took it. And only 80 2% of coaches who passed the exam, who were trying to pass the exam the second time, pass it. So a lot of concern was inside the ICF, and this concern reached ICF Global and the ICF credentials, let's say, department that is the one who is responsible for the exams. And that's why now they are trying to implement a new system that is more according to the ACTC. If you go inside the information of the pilot exam that you have in that link, you will see that they are very open and they share this, what I'm sharing here. So very transparent about maybe there is a lot of time that coaches need to read the questions, and the exam might be very long and quite tiring. So that's why they are trying to change that. So thank you. Anya?
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for all your deep expertise and the knowledge that was shared here. I really, really appreciate it. I know enough to be intimidated, and I know that I need to kind of step up the coaching based on the new competencies. I'm really curious, what do you believe sits at the root of this whole idea that we need to really be a partner with the client, review their agreements more frequently, and think of our entire coaching experience with them from beginning to end versus per session? I'm asking that because I know some organizations, for example, offer flash coaching or the coaching sessions where you can just drop in and a coach will talk to you and help you explore a challenge. What do you believe was the main motivation for ICF to want to shift towards this more holistic idea of a coaching process? Thank you so much.
From my perspective, let's see also what Virginia and Gorka share here. It is true that this is a competency or subcompetency that is included in competency 3, that is establishes and maintains agreements, this 311. And at the same time, answering your question, Anya, for me as a coach and a mentor coach is connected with the competency 8, growth, right? So really understanding and making the client part of every single part of their process, not only in the way that the client shares what's their end goal and what they want to achieve as much as possible by the end of the process, not only the subjects that they want to discuss during the coaching process so they reach their end goal as much as possible, but also how they want to address their coaching process. So this is like a co-creation, not only of goals, of also checking on what's the progress, checking on what is the evolution of the client, and also checking if what the client said when they started is still valid. And if not, include the client in this recalibration. So for me, it connects really with competency 8, autonomy, self-responsibility, accountability, creativity, autonomy and freedom at the end, right? So the client is in charge of every single part of their coaching process. So Virginia and Gorka, what do you think about that?
Yes, I agree, and I have an additional point of view for that request, and is that as we know, there is no doubt that we are in this VUCA and this binary environment. So things change very fast and things are very complex. So that means that also it's important that we review agreements because needs may change much faster now. So maybe what is needed today won't be needed tomorrow. And also it's important that we have this holistic view because there is so much information, so much knowledge, so many things that can influence the person, that it's important that we just, learn how to take a more holistic and complex view of things. So I think this is maybe one of the other things that require a different way to frame things in coaching now.
And in my
Virginia.
yes, only a question, Anya. You was talking about the people that only wants one session because they only want. Did I understood correctly?
Yes, there are some organizations that I know offer access to just flash coaching where you just go for one conversation. But I know that it seems like the ICF is definitely shifting towards this idea of a process and yet a
Yes.
process that is very flexible and is ever changing. Yeah, you understood correctly, Virginia. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was the thing, that if it's only one, it can continue with that. Only one is the moment, and that client is not going to be. It's not a process. But when the coaching, because the coaching really is a process, when you apply all the 8 competencies, it's more just not only a session, it's more about the process. That's why.
Asking to a question here for Artie. The question is, I might have missed the videos shared at the beginning of the webinar. How might I access them? So you will receive the PDF today of the slides. And in the slides that they are called links, you have access to directly to the videos. So because everything is hyperlinked. And also here, there were some comments about the pilot exam as well, the same. So you have access to all the links and all the information we have shared. So you have it in the PDF that you will be given just now.
Pilar Rodriguez. The name is very Spanish.
Yes, Pilar is here. So coming back to your takeaways, apart from thanking you for thanking us, that's also nice. If it's okay, I will share some takeaways just in case you would like to jump in and share some takeaways by not by chat but with audio. Someone was saying need to check out the new competencies in more detail to understand better. Yes, exactly. We have also shared here the comparative table. This is very important. So you really know the exact changes. And also you can, of course, review this presentation should you wish. And at the same time, you might also consider going to the comparative table and to the videos that are 2-minute videos of every competency. And this might give you a lot of insights about what we have just shared. Then there was a question about, let's see if I can have that. There was a question about question 3, I think, right? You were asking about question 3. 1 second. So question 3 was, what biases do you bring to your coaching relationships? Yes, that's something that it's difficult to understand. So stop, think, and reflect how open you are. And also now what you feel. Because now in these new competencies, it's not only about what the clients feel, but what we feel as coaches. So it depends. Actually, a coach should feel nothing when in a coaching session, right? So maybe this would give you any ideas about your biases. And this is connected to supervision. And that's why now not only the EMCC, but also ICF is included supervision here. What happens to our brain and to our heart and to our holistic selves as coaches that might have an impact in our sessions. So being very aware and understanding where we are, so then we can go to supervision if this is needed. So very, very important topic here.
There is another question from Arti that is about ongoing review. She's asking, can this happen multiple times in one session, contracting and recontracting? Yes, of course. I don't know if multiple sessions, but sometimes it happens that once or twice, maybe the client, when he or she begins to explore, they realize that, oh my God, what I thought I wanted, now it is not. I realize that it is not, so we need to start over. All right. And especially noble coaches are very afraid of the situation because like, oh my God, I need to redo all the session away again. Well, if this is what happens, this is what we have to do. It's for the client's sake. And also, don't worry because it's not like starting from scratch. Because even though the client is changing, or recontracting the agreement, the goal of the session, so he or she has already done a lot of work and reflection. So all these ideas, all this knowledge that the client has generated, I think they will be able also to be added to the new goal. So don't worry if this happens, just go ahead, reconfirm with the client, and just rebuild the agreement for the session and keep going as it should be. Okay, so Anya is asking, is the expectation that we update our formal agreement each time there is a change, or is it more about the spirit of the ongoing dialogue? So great question. So I have my point of view here because when I sign the agreement with my clients, I always like to just write at least the process goal and intermediate goals that the client set in the exploratory session. And then I just let them choose if they have any, change, if they want to reflect it or not. So I think it's, again, as always in coaching, is a matter of choice. Just let your client choose if they want to change the formal agreement, or as if you say, it's more an ongoing dialogue through the coaching process. But this is my experience and my point of view. But maybe Monica or Virginia may offer an additional or different point of view.
Well, I think it's the styles. If you prefer, if the client changed a goal, you can write it in the contract and the agreement or not. It's something that is in the going on. I just says Gorka. You need to have a contract, of course, but the goal, the objective is the goals that the person wants to take. So if they change, I think they might be changed in the contract, in the agreement.
Actually, I would ask it to my client because then we are co-creating this part of change too, right? And it's also understandable that things change from the beginning because after session one, the exploratory session, it is clear, we have a clear smart of the objective of the process, so the end goal. And we also understand the possible clear topics that our client wants to explore. And this is before starting the coaching process. So every single session with every single action plan and with every single work between sessions becomes a change. And it's natural that things change. It's natural that these goals get transformed. So it's something that we could really consider exploring, asking our client in the session zero, right? If we feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, what I share to my clients, and that this is just a skeleton, right? That we are going to include this information in the ICF agreement. And that, of course, there's change going on, and this might change. So what does the client want to do with this change? So I would really bounce it back with transparency. Gorka, there is a very beautiful question. I'm sure it's for you.
Okay, yeah, RT is asking, I was recently told that storytelling and quotes creates presence. Is that counted as 7-11? Okay, so first thing, I'm not sure actually if storytelling and quotes create presence, okay? What I know is that storytelling and quotes are a kind of metaphor. So actually that's a kind of language. And when it comes to language, it's about a model, is a mental model. So on the one hand, it's very important that this mental model, this language, that storytelling, that quote, that metaphor matches our client's brain, which is very difficult. All right. So in this case, when we're talking about sharing a metaphor, sharing a story or a quote with a client, yes, that counts as knowledge that I'm introducing, but also we have to be careful because depending on how we're doing it, it can also be a counter evidence for 4.1, which means that we're not respecting our clients' ways of thinking, resources, insights, and so on, because we are introducing a new way of thinking. Okay, so we have to be very careful. I usually, when we talk about metaphors, stories, quotes, what I usually recommend is that, okay, if the client is using the metaphor and the client is the one starting with the metaphor, the story, or the quote, just follow that because this is the client's language and you will be adapting yourself to your client's language. If you intend to introduce a metaphor, a storytelling, or a quote, then you have to be careful. You have to ask for permission, first of all. Then how can you be sure that this metaphor, this story is going to match your client's mental models and so on, which is can be kind of, not so productive for the client. So just, you may want to reflect a little bit on that. It can be a little bit tricky.
I would like to include here, thanks, Gorka. Maybe, Patricia, this is also an answer for your question, right? Until where do we share and at what point and how and until where or when, right? So maybe this could also be a good answer to the question you were sharing at the beginning. Yes. And I agree with what Gorka is saying, and I might share an experience here. I was doing peer coaching some years ago, and one of my coaches shared with me, I am seeing a sort of wave here, Monica. And I was like, who is this wave from? So whose wave is it? Because it's not my wave. I don't see any wave, right? So be careful with the metaphors that you bring in the session, because I was not connected with that wave that my coach said or shared with me. For me, I don't know. Maybe it would be a question for the coach. What does this wave mean to you, coach? Right? Because I don't see it in my world. Where do you see it in yours? Right? So I completely agree. Be careful with sharing metaphors that are not shared by the client.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monica, for sharing that. And Gorka makes a lot of sense because, especially if we are doing it like cross-cultural or from a different region, a person is from a different region, they might not understand the metaphor the way we have. So that way it might end up badly. So totally agree with you. Any more questions? Anybody would like to share their experience? It's already 7:29, so I think we are already like on time. Is it a good time to close the session, everyone? Yeah, so we are getting a lot of great reviews for all the three speakers. So thank you so much from the coaching journey community. We are really grateful to Monica, Virginia, and Gorka. And thank you, Monica, for bringing these two amazing coaches along with you. So, Monica has been always been a support in terms of mentoring also. We have a mentoring call on 5th, the coaching journey, mentoring sessions where you can do peer coaching and have a mentor. So everybody please join in there also. And thanks a lot for your great responses and being present throughout the session. I hope you all had a great learning experience. We will be sharing all the presentations and the videos with you very soon, and wish you all the best in your coaching journey. Thank you so much. Have a great day, great evening. Bye bye. Take care. And
Thank you.
see
Thank you
you
very
guys
much.
in
Bye
another.
bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.